Well, it would seem that if even from behind bars, Rokushiki is still fucking with us. I mean, it's like it wasn't enough that he killed a bunch of pregnant women in the past, but now he apparently had influenced, I guess because he was a psychiatrist or something. He had messed with some other people's minds and influenced them to go kill as well, I suppose, if that's the conclusion we're to draw from his involvement in this, that he somehow was, mentally manipulating people to go out and commit murder. So yeah, that's great. It'd be interesting if there was a segment where we visit him from behind bars or something and be like, "You motherfucker, you did this." Sunday morning. The news on the radio mentions that it's been 16 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor. Has it really been that long? It's been 12 years since the war ended. No wonder I'm getting old. The phone rings. Oh, I'll get it. Since Yukari's in the kitchen, which is closer to the phone, she comes out and answers it. Yes, hello. Tokisaka residence. Thank you for all your help. Yes, he's here. Looks like it's for me. I stand up and head over to Yukari. Yes, I understand. I'll tell him. But Yukari doesn't hand the phone over to me, hanging it up instead. Who was it? Yaginuma-san from the police. I see. No wonder. Let me guess. He said to hurry over, right? Where to? The Fuchu police station, he said. Fuchu? He said he'd give you a more specific address when you got there. An incident, huh? I put on my jacket. Yukari, hand me the car keys, would you? Here. Yukari hands over the keys. If I'm going to Fuchu, it'll be faster to take the car. It'll be easier to move around after I get there, too. Well, off I go. Take care. I take Itukaichi Road, head south on Kogane to the police station in Koshu, and return north on Fuchu. It's a residential district near Kokubunji, with businesses, factories, a hospital, and a prison. Police are standing around as if to cordon off an old row house. I see a familiar face, or rather, the person who called me here, and pull my car up to him. Hey, Yagunuma. Showing up in your own private automobile, huh? How urbane. Muttering sarcastic comments as soon as I show up, I see. It's just something Oizumi left behind. So, another murder? So I guess Oizumi's not really going to be in this game. That's kind of disappointing. I like Oizumi. Now we got to deal with this asshole. Yes, and it's the same as the last. The last? Hey, you don't mean... The coroner's conducting an autopsy right now. Something's been stuffed into and sewn inside the stomach again. I can't help clicking my tongue in frustration, so there's more. The body was suspended in the air again like last time as well. Where's the scene? I get out of the car. That apartment, as you can see, this area is full of factory workers and students. It becomes almost uninhabited during the day. Was the time of death sometime during the day yesterday? Not according to the one who found the body. We believe the crime was committed yesterday morning. For more details, ask her. I trace Yaginuma's glance. Natsume-san, wearing her white coat, comes out from one of the apartments. Jeez, I can't be looking at dead people all the dang time. Really works up a girl's appetite. Ugh. Yeah, for most people I'd say it's the opposite. Good work. Huh? If it ain't Tokisaka-han. I know it's pretty out of the way again. But I hope you'll lend me a hand. Of course, but first, is the correct time of death sometime yesterday morning? It's winter, and it ain't even clear when the body was discovered, but judging from the rigor mortis and other things, I'd say it's been about 24 hours since she kicked the bucket. The body was discovered by a neighboring factory worker returning home after a few consecutive days of work. He noticed a strange smell, reported it, and the officers who came running confirmed the presence of the corpse. Did you question the neighbors? I don't need you to tell me to question the neighbors, he says like I'm some kind of moron. It's not like that's a new thing. We won't get anywhere if I let it bother me. What's the victim's identity? Itose Mizuki, 30 years old. That's all we know at the moment. Kamizono Mayo from last time was 25, right? There's nothing really connecting the two of them other than the fact that they were in the prime of their lives, huh? Any similarities in their physical? Why don't you have a look for yourself? I suppose you're right. Natsume-san, if you'd show me. Oh, why is this woman eating tokoroten here? What's tokoroten? Tokoroten's a dessert made of seaweed jelly shaped into noodles. Ugh. And yeah, she'd be eating at a crime scene where there's a dead body. I guess that just makes her hungry. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if she were eating in front of the dead body. Actually, she probably does that regularly, considering she's usually conducting autopsies and then, I guess, eating food. No good can come of thinking about it. If you did, you'd just go crazy. Phew. Come on, let's get going. Natsume-san stands and starts walking first. Ugh. As soon as I enter the room, my nostrils are assaulted with a bloody smell so concentrated it makes me choke. It is a residential district. It's probably impossible to ventilate it completely. Oh. And this looks very similar to the corpse that we saw in the flashback. As you can see, it's near the vaginal region where there's the most blood coming out of, where the most blood's coming from. The corpse is suspended from the ceiling, roughly in the center of the room. There's nothing in the room noteworthy other than the corpse. Dreary would be a good word to describe it. I haven't moved our deceased friend here much yet, so go ahead and do your investigating. Very well. First, I put my hands together in front of the corpse. Well, where should I start? Oh, we're back to the investigation segment again. I'm not taking any chances. I am just, I'm just going to look up the walkthrough. Okay, so first we want to investigate her clothes. Her white clothes are stained red. Doesn't appear to be a doctor's robe. And it looks a little too stiff to be a dressing gown. Maybe the rope used to hang her? It definitely looks the same as last time. The body is hanging more or less in the center of the room. What's different is that she's suspended by ropes instead of hangers. It was probably a rope hanging in the room for laundry. Yaginuma points to the wall near the ceiling. So once again, they're using whatever was at the scene at the time. Which means they either didn't want to bring evidence in from outside, or it was something they thought up on the spur of the moment. The possibility of the second option practically vanishes when the same thing occurs twice. Or they could have thought it up on the spot the first time, repeating it the second time to make it seem as though it had some meaning. Yaginuma, the state of the first corpse hasn't been leaked anywhere, right? Of course not. Don't treat me like I'm some incompetent half-wit. Then you should solve this on your own without getting a civilian like me involved. I'll leave that part unsaid, though. This is my livelihood, after all. So the only ones who know the body was hung up like this are the investigators and the culprit. There's almost no chance it's a copycat. I guess that's true. Okay, so where else should we look? Of course, the most obvious place, the abdomen. I survey the corpse's abdomen. It's the same as before, a conspicuously bloated stomach, messily stitched up. I can see traces of blood all over the floor. I collected them all, but there were guts all over the place. They smelled something awful, let me tell you. And that was why you got so hungry, I suppose. So this bloated stomach should be empty. I'll open her up when you're done investigating. Got it. Okay, well... oh. Completely forgot. Yeah, there's the pendant on her neck. What's this? Around the neck of the corpse is a pendant with something like a crest carved into it. I wonder what this is. Don't ask me. Natsume-san shakes her head. Any ideas, Yaginuma-han? I feel like I've seen it somewhere before, but... where was it? Don't rush me, I'm trying to remember. Yaginuma frowns, squinting at the pendant. If it belongs to our deceased friend, it ain't got nothing to do with the case, yeah? I'll just leave this to Yaginuma. Okay, well, the pendant, and then... Yeah, I guess that's about it. There's not really anything else There's not really anything else to look at here. This is probably enough investigating. Well, let's get our little friend down. The forensics crew take down the body together. The body is laid out on the floor. Natsume-san cuts through the thread on the stomach with scissors. Whoopsie daisy. Natsume-san sticks her hand into the open wound and... oh god, the sound of that. Natsume-san sticks her hand into the open wound and draws out a bloody lump. Yep, it's the same thing as before. I examined the thing after it's placed on a steel tray. Looks the same. Big head, small arms and legs. Does it only look like a fetus to me because of my preconceptions from last time? Could be totally different after we analyze the dirt used, but the shape's dang near the same. It's pretty clear these were made by the same person, I wager. I gaze into the body's open-wide stomach. Looks like they're getting the hang of this. There wasn't much mess this time, just enough organs were removed to stuff in the doll. Is this the same thread that was used to stitch up the stomach the last time as well? Probably. No idea if it's exactly the same or not. It's stained with blood, so I don't even know what color it was. I can't imagine there's any significance to the differences between types of thread. I bet they were just sewed up to keep the clay dolls inside. What a dedicated effort. Is there any meaning in this action? Well, there's kind of a difference between a baby inside and outside of the belly. Because it would be difficult to tell if it was supposed to be a fetus outside the body. But somehow, I don't think it's that simple. Well, I'd conclude that this bit is the same as the last. Best get our dead friend out of here now. I head outside and suck the fresh, cold air into my lungs. Phew. Did you figure anything out? Yaginuma says without missing a beat. Dunno. A lot was similar at a glance, but... if I had to point to a clear commonality between them... oh boy. Well, definitely the clay doll. I mean, we already know that the clay doll is something we've seen in the previous... well, in the previous investigation or, you know, corpse that was investigated that we actually didn't see, you know, that it was investigated off screen, I suppose. This clay doll is probably the simplest evidence. I'm keeping information locked down, so there's very little chance it's a copycat crime. We can probably conclude that it's the same culprit, but what are the victims being targeted for? At the moment, the only thing connecting the two is that they're both relatively young women. They didn't have particularly similar features. If that's the case, they may have overlapping social circles. What was Itose Mizuki's occupation? Unemployed, perhaps. We didn't find any sort of payslips in her apartment. When the hell did you check that out? Before you arrived, Senpai, unlike you, I like to look at cases comprehensively. And this guy doesn't miss an opportunity to roast somebody, does he? So, looking at it comprehensively, what's your judgment? I'm concerned with our lack of information regarding her source of income. There wasn't much cash in her wallet, but it looked like she was cooking for herself. What, were you snooping around her kitchen before I got here? Could you tell how many people she was cooking for? There was only enough tableware in the kitchen for one person. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that she was dining with our culprit. I'd like to think she has a suspicious acquaintance, but seeing as she didn't make any tea or anything, I can't conclude that she knew the culprit. There's the possibility that it could have been a one-sided grudge, though. In that case, it'll be difficult to pin down a suspect. A nurse and an unemployed woman. The only thing that could connect them would be the hospital, I guess. I didn't find a patient registration ticket for the Kuchiki hospital, though. If the two victims never met, the only other way they could be related would be outside of work. Compared to Kamizono Mayu and her nursing paychecks, Itose Mizuki would be, well, poor. It'll be difficult to find anything linking these two. Looks like we'll need to do a little more investigating. I suppose we'll look into the new thing we found next. By new thing, you mean? Yeah, he's talking about the pendant. That pendant? You said it looked familiar, didn't you? I know. That's why I'm trying to remember. Yaginuma stares hard at the pendant. It's quite rustic for something a woman was wearing. Doesn't really look like an accessory. There's always the possibility the culprit planted it for some... That's it. Yaginuma nods to himself, interrupting me. Figure something out? This crest. I knew I'd seen it before, so that's what it is. What is it? Apologies. I imagine you know nothing about it, Senpai, but I saw something that looked like this during a previous case I resolved. I don't need to hear the boasting. Just cut to the... It's the crest of Senri. Senri? Yeah, if you guys remember, Senri is from Cartagra. So you can expect there's going to be some references back to Cartagra. The cult from Cartagra is back, and some characters from Cartagra are going to make an appearance again. I won't say who, though. I've heard that name before. It was a religious organization related to an incident that occurred 6 years ago, after I'd quit the police force. It involved many people, including former superiors and colleagues of mine. She may be a former cultist. After all, I destroyed Senri 6 years ago. Well, with some help you did, you mean? No, there's a good chance she was still faithful, isn't there? Why else would she be wearing the pendant? But their leader, the object of their faith, is dead. Well, I don't claim to be an expert, but don't people like that become more revered after death sometimes? Remnants of Senri, eh? Yaginuma nods. It was impossible to arrest every single member, after all, so I can't say whether or not anyone would have done such a thing. Did you find any other evidence in her apartment that the victim was religious? I'll investigate that now. Hey, you. Yaginuma gives orders to one of his underling policemen. Sheesh. Well, isn't that ironic? Something unexpected actually came out of this. I've got no idea whether or not it actually has anything to do with the case, though. There's probably a higher chance it's unrelated. Yaginuma, could you check out Kamizono Mayu? About her possible connection to Senri? Sure. Yaginuma nods. Senri was a religious group originally called the Congregation of the Blessed. Shigusa Michio, who had established the Congregation of the Blessed before the war, was a greedy, prideful man. Oh! I completely forgot his name was Shigusa. That's right! So there's a definite connection here. Yeah, you remember the Shigusa Shrine. So the Shigusa family is involved in this. Oh, okay. So Senri could basically have been, yeah, okay. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how Senri could... I mean, okay, so there's the connection with it being a member of the Shigusa family. So, yeah, Senri goes all the way back to the Shigusas that we see it in the flashback. That's interesting. For that reason, he was murdered in the ensuing chaos after the war, and the Congregation of the Blessed was taken over, its name changing to Senri. A young woman took over the position of leader and was dubbed the Holy Prophet. The chaos surrounding Senri was resolved by a group of people including Takeshiro Shoujo in 1951, and the organization was disbanded with the death of the tyrannical man pulling its strings. They've been silent for the last 6 years, but... Gotcha. Sorry for all the trouble, Takeshiro. Nah, I don't mind helping out if it's just this kind of stuff. Takeshiro Shoujo is no stranger to those events. He's not in Tokyo right now. He's living in Zushi in Kanagawa. There's someone who's still investigating stuff about Senri, so I'll make sure to introduce you to. Sure, thanks. I hang the phone up. Senri. I've heard a little bit about what happened 6 years ago. All I know is the tale of Takeshiro Shoujo, who was involved at the time, though. I don't know that much about Senri itself, but someone can fill me in on that blank period of time. I stare down at the name I wrote on the piece of paper, a name Takeshiro gave me. Ueno, huh? Guess I should ask about it when we meet. Wonder who that could be. Oh, back to this chick again. I'm kind of wondering how she's related to all this. Like I speculated in the last video, I feel like she's related to Satsuki, because her features look exactly the same. Like, she has the same face, same hair, like pretty much same everything. She looks exactly like her. I'm wondering if that's not just like some kind of red herring, though. Like, we're supposed to think it's a relative of hers and it's not. I don't know. Yukiko sits in her room, her back to the wall. Art supplies she uses in class sit beside her. She's been staring at them in a daze for a while now. The oil paint has barely been used and is almost brand new, if not for a slight indent in its tube. On the other hand, the paintbrushes are hardened. She probably didn't take good enough care of them the first time she used them. You'll have to ask Tokisaka-san about that too next time. I suppose so. She nods. There's a little bit of paint hardened onto her wooden palette as well. A clump of red. She should probably clean this while she's at it. But isn't the paint soaked into the wood? I think Tokisaka-san's had a bunch of dried paint on it too. Maybe it's alright like this. She picks up a thin metal spatula. This is a palette knife. Maybe you scrape it off with this. The lights in her room reflect off of it because she's never used it before. Looks like it would cut very nicely. That's not true. The tip is round. It's just a spatula. When she pushes her fingers to it, all it does is dent them. It doesn't seem like it would cut. She puts the tools back in their box and closes it. Yukiko, got a minute? Her thoughts are cut short by her mother's voice. She leaves her room and comes to the living room. What is it? I just have a little favor to ask. Her voice carries a hint of persuasion. Yukiko doesn't have a good feeling about this, but she can't ignore her either. You do owe her for raising you. With a small sigh, she sits down across from Fuyumi. What is it? She prompts. You know the end of the year is coming up, right? The nursery's going to be really short on hands. Here it comes. And? Please, invite some of your friends to help us out. Fuyumi slaps her hands together and bows her head. You knew it'd be something like this, didn't you? But, Mom, I don't have any friends, do you? She had to agree with that. I don't have any friends, and I'm not good with children. Yeah, that's pretty much what I figured you'd say. Fuyumi slumps over onto the dining table. So, I'm sorry. Sorry you're such a useless daughter. But yesterday you were all happy about how you joined a club, the art club, right? But I still don't have any friends yet. But you were invited to the club, right? Well, yes, but... They're nowhere near close enough to call them friends. Okay, I understand. Fuyumi raises her head. You don't have to help out with the nursery or anything, but you'd better become friends with those girls. Huh? She blinks in surprise. You want to be friends with them, right? But I don't know what to do. That's easy, just ask him. We're friends, right? Fuyumi laughs. That's it? And what are you supposed to do if they say no? Yukiko shakes her head. It's true that she wants to be friends with them, but when she thinks about being rejected, you wouldn't be able to stay there, would you? She's scared of that possibility. That's not what she wants. She truly doesn't. Come here, Yukiko. Fuyumi beckons her over, and Yukiko obediently makes her way over to the other side of the table. You really are an awkward kid, aren't you? Her mother's arms embrace her. Well, I'm not your daughter, Mom. Oh, she's adopted. She mutters quietly, feeling her mother's warmth. Are you still saying that? She gives her head a little bonk. But... I was super awkward, you know. Her voice is quiet. If you really want to change, you can become whatever you want. But... just don't push yourself. Stick to your own pace, okay? Just try talking to them for now. Okay. And if you're friends by the end of the year, Mom would have really appreciated if you got them to lend her a hand. She's still trying to persuade her. Well, I'll be going, Nisan. Yukari leaves the morning paper on the table, wearing a coat over her uniform. Alright, be careful. I'm stopping by the hospital on my way home today, so I might be a bit late. Yeah? Gotcha. Picking up her bag, Yukari heads out. I set down my coffee cup and pick up the newspaper. I open to the local section and see an article, complete with a picture, on a new 100 yen coin that'll be coming out the day after tomorrow. Until now, there's only been 100 yen notes, which tend to fill up the wallet. Not that my wallet's ever been particularly full of them. I've never even seen one of the 5,000 yen notes they introduced in the summer. Now there's a depressing thought. I close the newspaper and look over the front page. What's it say? Breaking their silence of 6 years, Senri returns. A large headline runs over the page. The contents of the article only state that a murder victim was a member of the group. The only new information I find in the article is that the remaining members of Senri created a group after its dissolution called the Blessed Congregation. The article also says that the victim, Itose Mizuki, belonged to the Blessed Congregation, and that its leader stated that he didn't know why she was murdered. The Blessed Congregation, huh? A throwback? Yeah, because it was called the Congregation of the Congregation of the Blessed. The name is closer to the predecessor of Senri, the Congregation of the Blessed. There's still no proof that they're related to the case, though. A newspaper should dryly state the facts. Their emphasis on Senri seems rather arbitrary. The phone rings. Yukari's not here, so I stand up and answer it myself. Hello, Tokisaka, is it? It's Yaginuma. I have something to discuss with you regarding yesterday. Could you get yourself over to the station? You make it sound like I'm a suspect. Of course not. I've no intention of arresting you yet. Oh, yet. Okay, thanks. Gee, thanks. I'd like you to meet someone as well, so today would be nice. See you soon. He says all he needs to say and hangs right up. Well, it's not like I want to chat on the phone with him for very long anyway. But who does he want me to meet? He must have used that wording to refer to someone I don't already know. Someone related to the case? I change trains and take my way to the Metropolitan Police Department. Presently, to get to Kasumigaseki, you have to take the Cho line to Tokyo Station. There are plans to extend the Marunouchi line on the subway to Shinjuku, so it'll be a lot easier to get over here if that happens. The line's gonna extend to Ginza next Sunday, but that's neither here nor there. Well, guess I should head over to the 1st Investigation Division. Sitting at a reception table in a corner of the desk-filled 1st Investigation Division, there's a visitor. A woman in a suit sits on the couch, puffing on a cigarette. I've never seen her before, but I can tell right away that she's not just anybody. Oh. The woman looks up at me. Her eyes are red, hair white. That is an unnatural eye color. Her left sleeve is flat, empty. And also that's an unnatural hair color too, so... she must be... Aoki Toji-san, I presume. Yep, that's her, from Cartagra. She looks pretty different now. I kinda like the short hair look. I give her the name I heard from Takashiro. Just Toji's fine, Tokisaka Reiji. I don't mind just Reiji either. I sit on the couch opposite her and take out a cigarette. Did you hear my name from Takashiro? Nah, I heard it here. Toji slides the box of matches on the table over to me. Thanks. Don't worry about it, Tokisaka. She used my last name. Well, I shouldn't let that bother me. So you're the one Yaginuma wanted me to meet? I ask her, blowing out smoke. Yeah, I've been after the Blessed Congregation for a little while. You a detective? Nah, I leave that to our friend. I'm just a journalist. Oh? Well, I guess her occupation changed. Smoke comes out with my voice. Just freelance, though I don't tend to write about stuff people like to read, so I'm not exactly rich. Sounds a lot like detective work. It's rare to get steady pay doing this. I don't mind the introductions, but let's not leave me out of the important parts, shall we? Yaginuma shows up with some documents. You were late. Toji sticks a new cigarette in her mouth. I don't have the luxury of being able to focus my time on just a single case, you know. So you rely on civilians. Sounds like you've got some extreme labor shortage issues. Please don't concern yourself with my financial situation. A perilous air seems to drift between them. For now, could you tell me what you've learned since yesterday? I interject between the two. These two are like cats and dogs, that's for sure, but I can't concern myself with that. There have been no real developments with the case. Seriously? The embodiment of competence right here. It's still unclear how the Blessed Congregation is involved in the case. Yaginuma ignores Toji's remark. I suspected the clay doll could have something to do with the Blessed Congregation, but they've never used anything like that, even in their time as Senri. Did you find any connections between Kamizono Mayu and the Blessed Congregation? We looked into it and couldn't find any connection. Of course, just because we couldn't find any proof doesn't mean we can't rule out the possibility. That's the same as saying you know nothing at all. Toji stubs out her cigarette and stands up. You want me to look into the Blessed Congregation, right? If you plan to, bring him along too, would you? Yaginuma stops Toji from leaving and points at me. Do whatever. With that parting remark, Toji leaves the room. Well, I'm not going to get any new information here, so I might as well go investigate outside. Well, I'll go too. Oh, that's right, Senpai. Yaginuma stops me. What is it? We have proof that the suspect from Kamizono Mayu's murder couldn't have killed Itose Mizuki. He's currently in critical condition at the hospital. Wait a second, what? I see. Are they talking about Ayato? What the fuck? That must mean the culprit's someone else. Oh god. Why would Ayato want to kill somebody? I mean, he wants to kill himself, but... I don't know, unless he suspects that somebody might have killed Satsuki, I guess. I head outside to find Toji waiting for me. What were you talking about? Just that our leads on the culprit are back to square one. The police are the same as ever. I'm sensing some enmity here, though I'm not sure if it's toward the police or just Yaginuma. I've never been one to cozy up to the police, Toji mutters. According to Takashiro, she was involved with some kind of underground organization operating in Ueno, but that's got nothing to do with me. Yeah, don't ask questions. If we're going to investigate the current Blessed Congregation, I suppose we should check out their base of operations. I bring the conversation back to the topic at hand. The Blessed Congregation's base is in Kokibakunji. Seems the remaining members moved after the Senri base in Ueno went up in flames. The head of the group died 6 years ago, right? Who's running the show now? Some higher up from back in the Congregation of the Blessed Days, named Orebe Tokahiro. He was overthrown when they became Senri. So for better or for worse, he wasn't involved in the whole Senri incident. Guess so. I didn't even know his name until recently. Well, guess we should head to Kokibonji for now. Should we take the Cho line? Sure. We take the Cho line to Kunitachi Station and then leave from the north exit, walking over to Kokibonji. The Blessed Congregation headquarters lie right in the middle of a field of rice paddies. I imagine it's usually a quiet place, but today there's a car from every news outlet parked nearby and reporters are swarming the building. Guess we shouldn't get too close. Toji stops a ways ahead of me. I do the same. About 30 minutes by train, huh? I estimate the distance from here to Itose Mizuki's apartment. If that's the case, there's a good chance she's working here. Though I have no idea if she did what could be called work. Nothing but the worst rags here, Toji grumbles, surveying the reporters. You can tell? They're all places I would never work for again. Guess she's been through a lot as a journalist. All they do is irresponsibly spread false rumors. Who knows how much they'll twist this? Well, people are already acting like Senri, the Blessed Congregation, rather, are behind this. Though it's true that no proof has come up yet to say they're not. Worst of all is that they're not outright lying. The press gathered by the entrance start making a commotion. Looks like somebody's coming out. Yeah. The door opens and cameras flash. 2 middle-aged men in white robes walk out. Those two, huh? Which one's Orebe? The one without the beard. And the beard? I think it was Otsugi Keigo. He takes care of the business. Otsugi stands in front of a platform. Silence, please. A representative of our organization would like to make a statement. The press goes silent at Otsugi's announcement. Everyone, I am the representative, Orebe. His voice wasn't particularly projected, but it seemed to resonate strangely far. I am truly grateful that you've gathered here today. Could you tell us exactly how you're related to Senri? One of the reporters shouts a question the second Orebe finishes his sentence. Is it true that you're mostly made up of members of Senri? A rapid succession of questions from reporters follows. They're really all about Senri. I'm sure society's more interested in that angle. So they just want to appeal to the reader's interests without reporting on anything meaningful. Orebe begins to speak. The Senri we were once part of followed the warped doctrines of a foolish man and had lost its true faith. And so, in order to protect our true faith from the Congregation of the Blessed, we reformed anew as the Blessed Congregation. Yeah, it's definitely like 100% different, fam. Don't worry. The Blessed Congregation exists to save those pitiful followers whose faith was twisted by Senri. Our mission is to spread our true doctrines, which exist to save people and give them hope. Yeah, right. They were prophesizing the end of the world when they were Senri. That was their twisted doctrines then. How the hell did they twist so far? They were saying only those who believed would be saved. Listen, we desire only one thing, to give peace to the hearts of our feeble followers. Orebe's speech is getting more fervent. We're holding this audience you've requested today to protect our followers as well. Any further suspicion of us will be seen as sacrilege. A car horn sounds. I look over to see a black vehicle pulling up. The vehicle scatters the reporters and pulls up in front of Orebe and Otsugi. That's the Skyline that just went on sale this year. I think it was 1,200,000 yen. Doesn't look like they're hurting for cash. The reporters surround Orebe and Otsugi as they try to get into the car. Is it true that this incident was caused by internal conflict in the Blessed Congregation? It was not. Otsugi turned around after putting his hand on the car door. We did not intend to receive this attention due to the incident, and we were not involved with it in any way. I will investigate the claims that the victim was a follower and present my findings at a later date. The two get in the car after those remarks. The car drives off with Orebe and Otsugi inside. Did you see the driver? Yeah, he didn't look too friendly. I didn't see any of the religious organization's followers. Probably a bodyguard they hired. An organization gets involved with that kind of business when it gets big enough. Makes sense. I guess she'd know, having been in that kind of business before. But now that Orebe's gone, there's probably no reason for us to be here, she mutters, watching the reporters prepare to go back home. You don't want to go talk to someone inside? No point. We'll just be seen as the same as those reporters if we go now. I guess you're right. She seems more used to interviews like this as a journalist than I am as a detective. I shouldn't be too impressed, though. I've got to get to work, too. I return to Shinjuku and take Toji to my office. Not a bad place. That's about the best I could say about it. I bring her a cup of green tea. I pegged you for more of a coffee guy. Don't like tea? That's not what I meant. Toji sips at the tea. I've got a friend who makes good coffee at her shop, so... I like places like that. I'll show it to you next time. Sure, but first, we should talk about the Blessed Congregation. I guess you're right. I didn't really get the impression they were involved with the case, though. Me neither, but I can't just swallow what Oribe was saying either. Like how he denied that it was a problem internal to the Blessed Congregation, even though the victim was wearing the same robes as them and was clearly a follower. If that was all true, they could have been more upfront about her position as a follower, but he wasn't. He was purposely vague about that detail. Either they were lying about something, or there's something else they're trying to cover up. Even if it's got nothing to do with the case, there's something they don't want people prying into. Yeah, sorry, but could you? I'll look into it. I was already looking into the remnants of Senri. The murder case falls more into your jurisdiction, no? I suppose, but could you look into Tose Mizuki as well? I think it'll be more convenient that way, since she was a Blessed Congregation follower. I'll let you know if I find anything. I appreciate it. Setting down her teacup, Toji leaves. Well, I've left the Blessed Congregation to her. I guess I'll dig a little deeper into Kamizono Mayu. I might even find a connection to the Blessed Congregation. The phone rings. Whoa, what's this? I stand up from the couch and make my way over to the phone on the desk. Hello, this is the Tokisaka Detective Agency. Uh-oh. What's this call about? It can't be anything good. Yukari steps foot into the hospital. She stops before she's taken more than a few steps into the hallway. What meaning is there in proceeding farther than this? He remains asleep. It took her several flower shops to find the flowers to place by his pillow, but they'll wilt before he even sees them. She sighs. Why is she doing this? She doesn't know him. They've never even spoken. Is it because she saved him? Because she has to take responsibility for saving him? She doesn't know. But she can't turn back. She'll put the flowers into a vase and see how he's doing, then head home. Excuse me. She whispers and enters the hospital room. A man is sleeping on the bed. She gazes at the bed from afar for a few moments. He doesn't look like he's in pain. His chest rises and falls rhythmically. His condition seems stable. He's got a beard growing. It's been 4 days now since he was brought here. That's probably enough time for a beard to grow. Yeah, I can confirm. Now that she thinks about it, she's never seen her brother with a beard. She's never thought to look very hard, but he must be shaving every day. That's a pain in the ass to do, I'll tell you that much. To shave every day. She picks up the empty vase on the side table. She'll have to go put some water in it. She fills the vase with water at the kitchenette and arranges the carnations she brought in it. She figures they'll last a few days like this, but she'll have to come retrieve them before they wilt. If he wakes up and sees wilted flowers, it probably won't do much to lift his spirits. She returns to the hospital room slowly, making sure the water doesn't spill. It happens when she opens the door. Hey. Huh? Yukari raises her head when she hears an unfamiliar voice. The man, sitting up in the bed, is staring at Yukari. Were you the one who saved me? He smiles gently. I just thought I had to do something. She puts the flower vase down. A little of the water spills, leaving drops on the table. So, your name is Masaki-san? It's Masaki Tomiyuki. Where did you hear it? One of the people at the hospital knew it. I see. Masaki bows his head. Thank you very much. Sure. Yukari nods, feeling a strange sense of discomfort. It looks like I've escaped death once again. Masaki mutters, staring at the bandages wrapped around his left wrist. You seem awfully disappointed. She knows she shouldn't speak that way, but Yukari can't help the thorns that sneak into her words. Is that how I sound? Yes. Aren't there any people who would feel sad if you died? It sounded rather discourteous to those people. That's a rather hard line to hear when you're all alone in the world. She's said too much. Yukari goes silent in awkwardness. Time passes like that for a while. She's unable to say a thing. Well, that is definitely awkward. So Ayato's awake again. Oh, hey, guess who else is showing up here? I take the train from Shinjuku to Nakano and head to the Kuchiki Hospital. I find Koharu near the reception desk and approach her. Dr. Yamanoshi, is it true that the patient regained consciousness? Masaki-san woke up this morning, but after a basic examination, we gave him some medicine and he's asleep again now. Well, it seems like coming here was pointless. When will he wake up? It wasn't a very big dose, so pretty soon I think. Tokisaka-san? Yes? I don't imagine you're planning to interrogate him or anything, but please try not to do anything that would put a burden on the patient. I understand. There are a couple of things I'd like to ask him, but I should probably stick to observing for a while. Though, interrogation, huh? I'm sure you'll be careful. After emphasizing those words, Koharu leaves. Masaki Tomiyuki, huh? There certainly are a lot of things I need to ask him. After considering a number of factors, I've concluded that he must be holding some sort of key. I stand in front of Masaki's hospital room. One of the people at this hospital knew it. I hear Yukari's voice from inside. Come to think of it, she did say she was going to the hospital this morning, didn't she? It looks like I've escaped death once again. At the man's voice, my hand stops halfway to the door. Escaped, though he doesn't sound particularly glad about it. You seem awfully disappointed. Yukari's voice is hard as stone. She seems upset at his tone. Is that how I sound? Yes, aren't there any people who would feel sad if you died? It sounded rather discourteous to those people. That's a rather hard line to hear when you're all alone in the world. Yukari's voice has stopped. She's probably feeling guilty now, thinking she said too much. Goodness gracious. Well, it's funny because she was thinking the same thing. I entered the room. The two of them look up and over at me. Are you that disappointed you didn't die? I lose my patience and walk up to his bed. And who might you be? The older brother, also the guy who shared his blood with you. I point at Yukari. I see. I should thank you and apologize for the trouble. No shit. God damn. Nissan. You stay out of this. I stop Yukari when she pulls on my sleeve. You look like you're about the same age as me. If you regret being alive so much, why didn't you go die in the war? There are plenty of people who wanted to live and died instead, even ignoring the war. That was my plan initially. The corner of Masaki's mouth twists. It wasn't for my country or anything, though. I went to war just to find a place to die, and I'm ashamed to say I came back alive. Then why don't you treat your life more preciously? Maybe because I feel too strongly that it's mine. It's not like I have anywhere to go back to or anything to protect. Masaki looks down and grasps his left hand. Yeah, you can't help but feel real fucking bad for Ayato. I mean, he's been through some shit. Someone he was in love with just got murdered horribly. You know, it's like, I guess you never really get over something like that. The hand, wrapped in bandages, is lying open halfway. He must have injured some tendons as well. Maybe I should leave this to Yukari. Yukari, you handle this. Huh? Nissan? I leave the room. If I stay there any longer, I'm sure I'll say something rash, like just die already then. But what on earth drove him that far into a corner? I can imagine a few things, but... Tokisaka-san. Koharu walks up. She seems a little angry. I did tell you not to put a burden on the patient, did I not? I'm sorry. All I can do here is apologize. Masaki-san has been through a lot and is not in a great mental state. Please don't stimulate him too much and just let him rest for now. A lot. You seem awfully well informed. Right. Maybe because he was a patient at this hospital? Tokisaka-san, I don't mind you doing your job, but please don't dig into the secrets of patients. This is for my job. I stop Koharu and shake my head. I think he's going to be a key in solving the case I'm investigating right now. You know what I'm talking about, right, Dr. Yamanoshi? About Kamizono-san? Just as I thought. I was the one who proved he couldn't have committed the crime. I imagine his suicide attempt was also related to Kamizono-san's death. You think he attempted suicide because of Kamizono-san's death? Or because he was suspected of committing murder? I believe the responsibility lies with the police in this case. I suppose you're right, but for that very reason, could I ask you to wait until his condition improves a little to ask your questions? I understand. Personally, I'd like to ask him about the case as soon as possible, but I can't risk another suicidal episode. When will he be able to leave the hospital? I can't say anything definite without consulting his doctor, but I think he'll be able to leave in a few days, though he'll need rehab for his left hand. I'll have to wait until then to ask him my questions. Dr. Yamanoshi, there's an emergency. A nurse comes to get Koharu. Understood. Well, Tokisaka-san, I'm counting on you. Right. I'm terribly sorry for the trouble. I watch Koharu and the nurse jog away. Well, guess I'll wait for Yukari and head home. Well, that's great. We can't really get anything out of him right now. After dinner, I lie around in my room, documents in one hand. It's stuff about the clay dolls we found inside the victims' stomachs. The dirt was red clay, found anywhere in the Kanto region, and there weren't any handprints or the like on them. It's hard to imagine there are clay dolls in the form of fetuses being sold as art or something anywhere. Meaning, these dolls were made for this specific purpose. They were about 20 centimeters long, 4 or 5 months into gestation if they had been real fetuses. Since the stomach was cut open and sewed back up instead of growing slowly like an actual pregnancy, this is probably the biggest it could be and still fit inside. But what does it mean? That the victims were pregnant? Or were the clay dolls stuffed inside to hide the fact that they were pregnant? No, of course not. Kamizono Mayu's uterus was heavily damaged, but the clay doll was stuffed in outside of her womb. I gaze at the autopsies Natsume-san compiled for Kamizono Mayu and Itose Mizuki. There was no evidence of sexual intercourse on Kamizono Mayu's body. Itose Mizuki's uterus showed no signs of pregnancy. These things are clear no matter what camouflage the perpetrator attempted. Should I be looking at the clay dolls as components of some sort of ritual after all? But I've never heard of such a ritual. I enter the library. There are several customs involving clay dolls all around the country dating from the Edo period. They seem to tie mostly to the faith of the Fushimi Inari, but they also usually seem to be colored and sold as souvenirs. Fushimi Inari. The Fushimi Inari Taisha is the head shrine of Inari, the Shinto god of foxes, fertility, rice, agriculture, and industry, and general prosperity and worldly success. Yeah, I kind of figured it was something to do with a fox, considering it was called Inari. For these dolls that seem to be used in rituals, they may be closer to something like clay figures. If that's the case, I just have to look even further back, to the Jomon period. Jomon was the period in prehistoric Japan from about 12,000 BC to 300 BC. Jesus Christ, that's a long fucking time ago. Is there anything like that in a more modern type of indigenous faith? Though I can't imagine that a ceremony in which a woman's stomach is cut open and a clay doll stuffed inside would be left behind in writing. Maybe a similar ceremony is being twisted into these murders. Is this where the Blessed Congregation comes into things? There's no evidence of that, but I think it's worth looking into. I'll ask Toji to check it out. She knows a little more than I do about the Blessed Congregation. The question is whether the Blessed Congregation, or Senri rather, used anything like a clay doll in their rituals. It's a little painful that this is all deduction, though. I'll look into Kamizono Mayu, like I had planned in the first place. And Masaki Tomiyuki. I don't think it'll be long until he's out of the hospital. It's fine with him presently in the hospital, but I can't guarantee he won't disappear when he's discharged. I wouldn't feel great about letting him die out on the street somewhere. There's a very low chance that he's the culprit. Low, but not zero. I'm well aware of that fact, since I was the one who proved his innocence. Guess I'll have to keep an eye on him. A break between classes, but Yukari can't quite relax. Their next class is physical education. She takes her gym clothes out of her bag and starts changing. Don't you think it's weird to have PE outside when it's this cold? Kohane grumbles, staring at her thin gym clothes. Isn't it nice though? We don't get the opportunity to move around that much, do we? Oh yay, fan service. She puts her legs through her bloomers with her skirt still on. White bloomers are so easy to get dirty. What was whoever suggested them thinking? Good question. It does make her a little uncomfortable to wear something that looks like underwear from far away. Oh, that's what I thought it was. It's obvious that it's a gym uniform from the material, though. She unzips her uniform and takes it off. They may be indoors, but it's still cold wearing nothing but her underwear. I've got goosebumps. She slips her arms through her sleeves quickly and puts on her sweatshirt. Huh? Not changing, Yukiko-chan? The seat behind Yukari. Yukiko stands, still in her uniform, preparing to change clothes. Just observing today? No, it's just, you'll be late if you don't start changing soon. Right. Yukiko turns around and starts changing restlessly. Was she embarrassed? Kohane whispers to her. We're all women here, so I don't think there's any need to worry that much. I think you can do with a little more worrying, Yukarichi. Really? She's not quite convinced. Whoa! Koharu suddenly looks over at Yukiko and gasps. What is it? They're enormous. She traces Kohane's glance. Yukiko has taken off her uniform and is changing into her gym clothes. You're right. Oh my god. She looks down at her own chest automatically. They should have been the same age, but they're in completely different leagues. She glances over at Kohane's chest too. Hers isn't much different from Yukari's. She had thought that this was the average size. She'd figured they would grow more later, like Hyoko's. She looks at Yukiko again. Yeah! Koharu has embraced Yukiko from behind. Whoa, this isn't fair. Hey, stop! Yukiko tries to escape Kohane's grip, but it's too tight. They weren't this big before. How'd they grow so much? Stop. Don't move your fingers like that. They seem sensitive, too. Hey, Kohane. Yukari stops Kohane, taking pity on Yukiko. You want to feel too, Yukarichi? Class is about to start, so let's hurry. She must admit she's a little interested, but Yukari prioritizes time. I want to feel her up too. I guess you're right. Kohane releases her grasp and Yukiko hurriedly dons her sweatshirt. Are you alright? Yes. Yukiko nods, her face bright red. Come on, let's go. The bell's about to ring. Kohane leaves the classroom in a show of her usual fickleness. Let's go, Kaihara-san. Right. Cold winds race around them. This is too weird, jogging in this cold. Kohane grumbles, moving at what's basically a walking pace. It's better than jogging in the heat. It was cold at first, but jogging a little has warmed her up. She glances behind her. Yukiko is following them at an even slower pace. I'll bet those things are probably getting in the way. Yukiko's breasts bounce as she runs. They really are something else. Yes, they are. Yeah, you can't say men are the only ones that do this shit, where they just like admire women's breasts. She looks at her own chest again. They're not bouncing. They don't get in the way while she's jogging if she doesn't move too much, but it's still a bit of a complicated feeling. A whistle blows and they take a break. Yukiko is the first to crouch down. Good work. Right. Yukiko nods and looks up at Yukari. Is something the matter? Why, aren't you tired? I am tired. Yukari crouches down next to Yukiko, laughing. But I like moving around like this. Do you really? You don't get many chances to do so in the winter. In the summer, she can go to Okutama and the like to catch bugs. I've never exercised all that much, Yukiko mutters. Were you sick? Something like that. Yukiko stands up and walks off. Maybe she's gone to drink some water. Kohane comes over in her place. I think Yukiko-chan's exhausted due to the law of inertia. Uh-huh. Unable to confirm or deny her proposal, Yukari gives a vague assent. After buying dinner, Yukari heads home. Returning to her room, she changes out of her uniform into her house clothes. It doesn't look like her brother's home yet. It seems like he's been busy with a big case lately. After the sun sets, she stands in the kitchen. Let's see here. She puts on an apron and scoops out 2 cups of rice from the bin. She puts water in the strainer and begins washing the rice. The December water is very cold. Nevertheless, she endures the frigid temperature, carefully washing the rice. She throws out the white clouded water and rinses the rice a few more times. When the water gets a little clearer, she stops rinsing and puts the rice in the pot inside the electric rice cooker, adding water. She can leave it like this for a while. This electric rice cooker is state-of-the-art. Her brother had bought it for her in a rare show of generosity. Of course, he'd had a little to drink at the time. It may very well have been an impulsive purchase. She'd often burned the rice at first, but she's used to it now. It doesn't taste quite as good with this, but she can't deny its convenience. If it could only keep the rice warm, it would be perfect. Before turning on the power, she takes some vegetables out of a shopping bag. She puts some water in a basin and washes the potatoes. The carrots, too. She peels the skin off both of them and cuts them into bite-sized pieces. She cuts the carrots into fan shapes. The onions next. She cuts the beef into appropriately sized pieces. She boils some water in a pot and puts the ito konnyaku inside, boiling it. Ito konnyaku? Gelatinous noodles made from konjac jam, also called shiratake noodles. The door to the living room opens. I'm home. She turns around at her brother's voice. Welcome home, Nissan. What's for dinner? I'm making nikujaga. Nikujaga is a meat and potato dish stewed in sweetened soy sauce. Gotcha. He nods and heads to his room. He seems exhausted from work. Still, it's unusual for him to come home just after sunset like this. Usually he'll come back late at night, and there are even some days where he doesn't come home at all. But Yukari always makes dinner for two. It's even harder to cook for one after all. Since she's always cooked for two, she knows just how much to use. Her brother eats a little more, and she eats a little less, so she makes a good amount for two people. Her parents died in a plane crash when she was young, and her brother cooked for them for a while. She couldn't even pretend to like his cooking though. That's why Yukari began proactively tending to the kitchen to learn how to cook, and at some point that became her daily routine. There are times when she does want to eat her brother's cooking, but she probably won't be able to anytime soon with how busy he is. And in the first place, he probably wouldn't do it even if she asked, because he's not the same as he used to be. Their parents died, his fiancée Yukiko was killed. Okay, is there... Yeah, we already know who she is. She remembers the girl who was her classmate. When she disappeared, her brother closed off his heart again. He acts like he doesn't care at all on the surface, but her brother's emotions are frozen. That's why he throws himself so recklessly into his work. Even after quitting the police force, her brother continued to ardently involve himself in gruesome incidents. She believes it was to find clues about Yukiko's murder. He seems to be repeating the same behavior again now. To find her, Kuchiki Toko. She turns on the rice cooker and starts frying some onions. The moisture remaining in the pot is repelled by the oil. When the onions have become transparent, she throws in the ito kanyaku, potatoes, and beef. All Yukari can do is cook, just like this. She can't find Toko. That's her brother's job. Her job is waiting for him to come home, just like this.